Let me introduce myself. I am a professional failure. Not once, not twice. I've failed more times than I can count. I've failed in school, I've failed in business, I've failed in relationships, I've failed myself over and over again. I've been laughed at, I've been ignored, I've been underestimated so many times, I stopped keeping score. And you know what? I survived. I failed so many times that failure stopped scaring me. I got rejected so often that rejection lost its power. I lost so much that loss became my classroom. Failure didn't break me, it built me. I am not here despite of my failures. I am here because of them. Every fall toughened my skin, every no sharpened my drive, every setback forced me to level up. Now I walk into the storm without flinching. Now I take risks with no apology. Now I chase goals so big, failure looks small next to them. Because I am immune to failure, not because I avoid it, but because I embrace it, because I've made failure my fuel, because I've been knocked down so many times that getting back up is my reflex now. So if you're afraid of failing, good. That means you're close to something real. But don't run from it, walk straight into it. Fail loud, fail forward, fail often, and become unbreakable. I am a professional failure, and that is exactly how I became unstoppable. Heavenly Father, I come before you not with pride, but with honesty. I have tried, and I have failed. I have chased dreams that slipped through my fingers, made choices that led to dead ends, and built plans that crumbled beneath me. Lord, I confess the weight of disappointment, not just in the world, but in myself. But I know you are the God who does not waste pain. You see what I cannot. You redeem what I thought was ruined. So I lay my failure at your feet, not to be hidden, but to be transformed. Teach me, Lord, not to measure success by titles or applause, but by obedience, growth, and faith. Help me find purpose in the rubble, hope in the silence, and strength in the lessons. Let this failure refine me, not define me. Rebuild me with wisdom, guide me with grace, and remind me that I am not alone in this valley. Your plans are still good, and my story is not over. In Jesus' name, amen.
Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make.
Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave. 6 feet deep under, but my body won't decay. Cause my messages are timeless, so they'll put them on display. Oh yeah, I rap with a certainty, I have a sense of urgency. A message for eternity, for everyone internally. I had some people burning me, but now they fucking learn to see I ain't the one to fuck with, now they looking nervously. And I don't really care what you think of me respectfully. You can kick rocks if you think you're fucking better, see I will outwork you, turn you to an enemy. Hurt you so bad that you're gonna need some therapy. I got the motherfucking recipe. I've been cooking up hits, I'ma leave a legacy. You'll be looking small when you're standing right next to me. I'm 5'10", bitch, but I'm 10 feet.
Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way.
A feeling of failure is terrible. It torments your mind and destabilizes your hope. But today, you will finally learn how to use it for your self-development. Therefore, to put yourself in the right frame of mind, say the following affirmations quietly. I am not my failures. I am my ability to rise from them. This moment does not define me. I can learn something valuable from every setback. Growth often begins where comfort ends. I give myself permission to start again. My journey is uniquely mine, and it's still unfolding. I am capable even when things don't go as planned. Failure is feedback, not a final verdict. I honor my effort even when the outcome wasn't what I hoped. Every experience shapes me into a wiser version of myself. My resilience is greater than any rejection. Success is not linear, and I am still moving forward. I let go of shame and hold on to growth. I trust myself to figure things out. I am allowed to evolve beyond past decisions. Failure means I was brave enough to try. Setbacks are setups for comebacks. I am rebuilding, not retreating. I still have time. I still have power. I still have purpose. I deserve patience and compassion from myself. Today is a new chance to grow. What I learned is more valuable than what I lost. I am worthy even when I stumble. I trust the process even when the path is unclear. This is not the end, just a powerful new beginning. You can now open your eyes and remember to say these truths daily to overcome your fear of failure and rejection. If you're born in 1960s America, influential during your teens and 20s, your young, impressionable years, when you're developing a base of knowledge about how the economy works, send prices up more than threefold. That is a lot. You remember gas lines and getting paychecks that stretched noticeably less far than the ones before them. But if you're born in 1990, inflation has been so low your whole life that it's probably never crossed your mind. America's nationwide unemployment in November 2009 was around 10%, but the unemployment rate for African American males aged 16 to 19 without a high school diploma was 49%. For Caucasian females over age 45 with a college degree, it was 4%. Local stock markets in Germany and Japan were wiped out during World War II. Entire regions were bombed out. At the end of the war, German farmers only produced enough food to provide the country's citizens with 1,000 calories a day. Compare that to the US, where the stock market more than doubled from 1941 through the end of 1945, and the economy was the strongest it had been in almost 2 decades. No one should expect members of these groups to go through the rest of their lives thinking the same thing about inflation, or the stock market, or unemployment, or money in general. No one should expect them to respond to financial information the same way. No one should assume they are influenced by the same incentives. No one should expect them to trust the same sources of advice. No one should expect them to agree on what matters, what's worth it, what's likely to happen next, and what the best path forward is. Their view of money was formed in different worlds, and when that is the case, a view about money that one group of people thinks it's outrageous can make perfect sense to another. A few years ago, the New York Times did a story on the working conditions of Foxconn, the massive Taiwanese electronics manufacturer. The conditions are often atrocious. Readers were rightly upset. But a fascinating response to the story came from the nephew of a Chinese worker who wrote in the comment section. My aunt worked several years in what Americans call sweatshops. It was hard work, long hours, small wage, poor working conditions. Do you know what my aunt did before she worked in one of these factories? She was a prostitute. The idea of working in a sweatshop compared to that old lifestyle is an improvement, in my opinion. I know my aunt would rather be exploited by an evil capitalist boss for a couple of dollars than have her body be exploited by several men for pennies. That is why I'm upset by many Americans thinking we do not have the same opportunities as the West. Our governmental infrastructure is different. The country is different. Yes, factory is hard labor. Could it be better? Yes, but only when you compare such to American jobs. I don't know what to make of this. Part of me wants to argue fearlessly. Part of me wants to understand. But mostly, it's an example of how different experiences can lead to vastly different views within topics that one side intuitively thinks should be black and white. Every decision people make with money is justified by taking the information they have at the moment and plugging it into their unique mental model of how the world works. Those people can be misinformed. They can have incomplete information. They can be bad at math. They can be persuaded by rotten marketing. They can have no idea what they are doing. They can misjudge the consequences of their actions. Oh, can they ever? But every financial decision a person makes sense to them in that moment and checks the boxes they need to check. They tell themselves a story about what they are doing and why they are doing it, and that story has been shaped by their own unique experiences. Take a simple example, lottery tickets. Americans spend more on them than movies, video games, music, sporting events, and books combined. And who buys them? Mostly poor people. The lowest income household in the US on average spends $412 a year on lotto tickets. 4 times the amount of those in the highest income groups. 40% of Americans cannot come up with $400 in an emergency. which is to say, those buying $400 in lottery tickets are by and large the same people who say they couldn't come up with $400 in an emergency. They are blowing their safety nets on something with a 1 in a million chance of hitting it big. That seems crazy to me. It probably seems crazy to you too. But I am not in the lowest income group. You're likely not either. So it's hard for many of us to intuitively grasp the subconscious reasoning of low-income lottery ticket buys. But strain a little, and you can imagine it going something like this. We live paycheck to paycheck and saving seems out of reach. Our prospects for much higher wages seem out of reach. We can't afford nice vacations, new cars, health insurance, or homes in safe neighborhoods. We can't put our kids through college without crippling debt. Much of the stuff you people who read finance books either have now or have a good chance of getting. We don't. Buying a lottery ticket is the only time in our lives we can hold a tangible dream of getting the good stuff that you already have and take for granted. We are paying for a dream, and you may not understand that because you are already living a dream. That is why we buy more tickets than you do. You don't have to agree with this reasoning. Buying lotto tickets when you are broke is still a bad idea. But I can kind of understand why lotto ticket sales persist. And that idea, what you're doing seems crazy, but I kind of understand why you're doing it, uncovers the root of many of our financial decisions. Few people make financial decisions purely with a spreadsheet. They make them at dinner tables or in a company meeting. Places where personal history, your own unique view of the world, ego, pride, marketing, and odd incentives are scrambled together into a narrative that works for you. Another important point that helps explain why money decisions are so difficult and why there is so much misbehavior is to recognize how new this topic is. Money has been around a long time. King Eliot of Lydia, now part of Turkey, is thought to have created the first official currency in 600 BC. But the modern foundation of money decisions, saving and investing, is based around concepts that are practically infants. Take retirement. At the end of 2018, there was $27 trillion in US retirement accounts, making it the main driver of the common investor saving and investing decisions. But the entire concept of being entitled to retirement is at most 2 generations old. Before World War II, most Americans worked until they died. That was the expectations and the reality. The labor force participation rate of men aged 65 and over was 50% until 1940s. Social Security aimed to change this, but its initial benefits were nothing close to a proper pension. When Ida Mae Fuller cashed the first Social Security check in 1940, it was for $22.54, or $416 adjusted for inflation. It was not until the 1980s that the average Social Security check for retirees exceeded $1,000 a month adjusted for inflation. More than a quarter of Americans over age 65 were classified by the Census Bureau as living in poverty until the late 90s. There is a widespread belief along the lines of everyone used to have a private pension, but this is widely exaggerated. The Employees Benefit Research Institution explains only a quarter of those aged 65 or older had pension income in 1975. Among that lucky minority, only 15% of household income came from a pension. The New York Times wrote in 1955 about the growing desire but continued inability to retire. To rephrase an old saying, everyone talks about retirement, but apparently very few people do anything about it. It was until the 1980s that the idea that everyone deserves and should have a dignified retirement took hold. And the way to get that dignified retirement ever since has been an expectation that everyone will save and invest their own money. Let me reiterate how new this idea is. The 401k, the backbone savings vehicle of American retirement, did not exist until 1978. The Roth IRA was not born until 1998. If it were a person, it would be barely old enough to drink. It should surprise no one that many of us are bad at saving and investing for retirement. We are not crazy. We're all just newbies. Same goes for college. The share of Americans over age 25 with a bachelor's degree has gone from less than 1 in 20 in 1940 to 1 in 4 in 2015. The average college tuition over that time rose more than fourfold adjusted for inflation. Something so big and so important hitting society so fast explains why. For example, so many people have made poor decisions with student loans over the last 20 years. There is no decades of accumulated experience to even attempt to learn from. We are winging it. Same for index funds, which are less than 50 years old, and hedge funds, which didn't take off until the last 25 years. Even widespread use of consumer debt, mortgages, credit cards, and car loans did not take off until after World War II, when G1 bill made it easier for millions of Americans to borrow. Dogs were domesticated 10,000 years ago and still retain some behaviors of their wild ancestors. Yet, here we are, with between 20 and 50 years of experience in modern financial system, hoping to be perfectly acclimated. For a topic that is so influenced by emotion versus fact, this is a problem, and it helps explain why we don't always do what we are supposed to with money. We all do crazy stuff with money because we are all relatively new to this game, and what looks crazy to you might make sense to me, but no one is crazy. We all make decisions based on our own unique experiences that seem to make sense to us in a given moment. Now, let me tell you a story about how Bill Gates got rich. 2. Luck and risk. Nothing is as good or as bad as it seems. Luck and risk are siblings. They are both the reality that every outcome in life is guided by forces other than individual effort. NYU professor Scott Galloway has a related idea that is so important to remember when judging success, both your own and others. Nothing is as good or as bad as it seems. Bill Gates went to one of the only high schools in the world that had a computer. The story of how Lakeside School, just outside Seattle, even got a computer is remarkable. Bill Duggal was a World War II Navy pilot turned high school math and science teacher. He believed that book study wasn't enough without real-world experience. He also realized that we'd need to know something about computers when we got to college. Recall the late Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen. In 1968, Duggal petitioned the Lakeside School Mothers Club to use the proceeds from the annual rummage sale, about $3,000, to lease a teletype model computer hooked up to a General Electric mainframe terminal for computer time sharing. The whole idea of time sharing only got invented in 1965, Gates later said. Someone was pretty forward-looking. Most university graduate schools did not have a computer anywhere near as advanced as Bill Gates had access to in 8th grade, and he couldn't get enough of it. Gates was 13 years old in 1968 when he met classmate Paul Allen. Allen was also obsessed with the school's computer, and the two hit it off. Lakeside's computer wasn't part of its general curriculum. It was an independent study problem. Bill and Paul could toy away with the thing at their leisure, letting their creativity run wild. After school, late into the night, on weekends, they quickly became computing experts. During one of their late night sessions, Allen recalled Gates showing him a Fortune magazine and saying, "What do you think it's like to run a Fortune 500 company?" Allen said he had no idea. "Maybe we'll have our own computer company someday," Gates said. Microsoft is now worth more than $1 trillion. A little quick math. In 1968, there were roughly 303 million high school age people in the world, according to the UN. About 18 million of them lived in the United States. About 270,000 of them lived in Washington state. A little over 100,000 of them lived in Seattle area, and only 300 of them attended Lakeside School. Start with 300 million, end with 300. 1 in a million high school age students attended the high school that had the combination of cash and foresight to buy a computer. Bill Gates happened to be one of them. Gates is not shy about what this meant. If there had been no Lakeside, there would have been no Microsoft, he told the school's graduating class in 2005. Gates is staggeringly smart, even more hardworking, and as a teenager, had a vision for computers that even most seasoned computer executives couldn't grasp. He also had a 1 in a million head start by going to school at Lakeside.